So what do you think the name of that secret society is? Hey, hey, ho, ho, Donald Trump has got to go? Or do you think that little point in the text was just said in jest? I think so. What do you think? Tell me down below. Okay. Thank you for watching. Welcome to Wicked Felina. I'm Felina. So what do you think is going to happen at the State of the Union address tonight? Do you think it's going to be kind of like at the Republican National Convention, you know, when they had that big doorway and the light is coming out of it, and then you hear the music playing, it's We Are the Champions, you know, the gay theme song, and then Trump comes out of the light, you know, kind of like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when little Martians come out of the spaceship, you know, and Richard Dreyfuss is like all muddy from making all those mountains, and then he comes out, except this time he's holding the memo, and then he reads the memo, you know, and then exposes all the Democrats, and then they all feel ashamed, and they all put their cannabis away, and they say something like, oh, we were wrong, we're sorry, we shouldn't have done all that stuff to you. And then Brian May will call up Trump and say, you know, don't use our music anymore because, you know, the gay crowd doesn't like Trump, which is kind of in reverse, because when Obama and Hillary Clinton were against gay marriage and Trump has been for, you know, gays since the beginning, over 30 years ago, I think it was, you know, when they wanted equal rights, came out marching. Trump was the one that was supporting them, and he came out after the, you know, Orlando shooting, or Omar Mateen, you know, the guy who supported Hillary Clinton, and he shot up the gay nightclub. And it turns out that he and his wife were scoping all these nightclubs, but you know, the FBI, because under Obama, the FBI had interviewed Omar Mateen about 6 times before that shooting. And under Obama, what Obama did was he called in jihadists to look through the training manuals and to take out of the training manuals everything that basically told us how to figure out who was a terrorist and who wasn't a terrorist, which would have been some good information. So basically the FBI was told to stop interviewing Omar Mateen, but the reason why, you know, the light was focused on him, because he would tell people that he worked with, and he would cheer every time there was a terrorist attack, and he thought 9/11 was really, really great. So there was reason to look at this guy. There was like something wrong with this guy. But it's really great that his father showed up at a Hillary rally and was sitting right behind Hillary, which, you know, that it's a little tidbit. You know that when people go into those rallies and they pick certain people out to sit behind the candidate because you want to see all these, and she wants to show everybody the show of faces, that she's got a diverse crowd. They have to take their name and they have to look them up. They have to find out who these people are and their history. So it's kind of strange that somehow they didn't know that this was Omar Mateen's father sitting right behind Hillary, which is interesting. So, but you know, there was a CNN reporter and did an editorial after the shootings down at in Orlando, Florida, and he told the gay community that they should back Trump because he's the one who's been supporting gay people and treating them as equals all these years, and it was Obama and Hillary that weren't. And you know how Obama is pro, you know, giving money to countries that kill gays, you know, that hang them and throw them off of rooftops. They hung that gay adolescent after he gave them all that ransom money. You know, Iran. So it's kind of strange. So it's kind of upside down. But I remember in my town, they had this rally after the shooting in Orlando. And I went to the rally, and there's a big gay community in my town. And they're wonderful people. It's nothing against them, but they're so in the dark. See, this is what's wrong with Democrats. They're really in the dark. They're not educated. As long as Obama says that something is good, there's nothing more beautiful than hearing the call to prayer every morning. As long as Obama said that, and since Obama is, is half black, but he's Democrat, but if he was Republican, then the liberals, they wouldn't listen to him at all. He says that Islam is good, and I remember them shouting and saying, we know they say these things about Islam, but we know the truth. And I'm going, boy, I'd like to bring you guys a Quran. And I would like to open it up to show you that it says to rain down stones upon gay people until they're dead. It says that in Surah 8. So it's really important for the progressives, the liberals, to really start knowing who your candidate is, knowing their history, and knowing what they back, and don't say that this is good. That's kind of like, basically, that's what you judge somebody by the color of their skin, also their political party. It's not just the color of the skin. Whatever Obama says is good. If Obama says it's good, and Islam means peace, but it means submission, which is actually like slavery, then it's good. But you see, and these people are all highly educated. These are all highly educated people, and they have no idea. They're just taking his word for it. And at the same time, you see how they demonize Trump. And if it's if it does come out that in this memo, that it says in this memo that Hillary paid for the dossier and they got the FISA warrants because of this fake dossier. And I was reading some Democrats on the web saying that, and first they said the dossier was fake, and then it came out that some things were true. Yes, some things were true, like Moscow is in Russia, and Putin, is in Russia. Things like that were true, but the other stuff didn't really turn out to be true. And how McCabe resigned this morning. This is Monday today, I'm filming it. All of a sudden he resigned. And he was one of the people, and if you saw my other videos on the one about exonerating Hillary Clinton, and see the head, really, the guy who's really at the top is Obama. He knew that this was all going on. He okayed it. It's like Hillary didn't, they asked over 600 times for to enforce security, beef up security in Libya, and then the terrorist event happened, and he went off to a fundraiser. He went to a lot of fundraisers, but he went to a fundraiser while that was going on in Benghazi, and she wanted, it was her personal baby, take down Gaddafi, who's actually keeping out ISIS. And he was policing the Mediterranean. So, because he said that if I don't police the Mediterranean, there'll be tons of migrants going into Europe. And Hillary wanted to take him down for some reason, and she took him down just like Obama took out thousands of troops out of Iraq, and then ISIS came in. And all that fun stuff happened. I don't have to repeat that to you. And then, ISIS came into Libya. She said, we came, we saw, he died. I'm just thinking to myself, it's like, really, is it going to come out that she didn't do anything wrong? Well, wait a second. We know that whole server thing and the email thing. We know those are all felonies. and we know that Obama knew about this server, and that it wasn't a government server, and he was sending her emails on that server. We knew that all came out during the election. So, getting back to Libya, so she was all happy. We saw he died. So you know how the progressives always say that it's America's fault and the people dying in these other countries and suffering in all these other countries because of what America did? Well, in this case, I totally agree that America, yes, right, America took Iraq down. We did have troops to keep us secure, to keep the country from falling into ruins, but Obama took that out, and then it fell into ruins. And then for some reason they take down Libya, and see these countries, Iraq, and so Saddam Hussein was horrible. We all know how bad he was. But you see, Gaddafi was a secularist. He wasn't into Orthodox Islam. It's really not radical, it's actually Orthodox Islam. If you actually read it, you find out this is actually Orthodox Islam. You have to follow the sayings and the doings of the Prophet. And see, what happened was there's about 4.5 million slaves in Africa. Africans owning other Africans. In Islam, slavery is okay. And so what happened was, and I saw this on film, on the television several years ago, and it came out a little while ago with CNN, that they were auctioning off black Africans on the auction block. And that's because we took Gaddafi out of power. And so as a direct result, by the okay of our biracial president, there's slave trading going on in Libya and human beings being sold on the auction block. And so I do agree with the progressives who've told me ever since I was a toddler how America destroyed the world and we take down countries. Yes, we do. Yes, and except, Obama did say, maybe we shouldn't blame America, because Obama did say that he was a citizen of the world. He doesn't consider himself American. He doesn't believe in borders. He's a citizen of the world. And that famous photo of John Edwards and Hillary with their hand over their heart, the anthem was being played, and Obama had his arms down by his side. It's almost as if he doesn't know what to do when the anthem is played, like everybody who's born in this country. And he's older than I am. We're always, since day one, we put our hands over our heart. We just know to do that when that song is played. It's interesting how he did. So maybe, I guess this time the progressives are wrong. It wasn't America, or wasn't spearheaded by somebody who considers themselves an American. I don't care where he was born. If he was born in America, I have no idea. That's not that issue. But this time, I guess maybe, I guess the person at the top, it's like the person at the top, when all these warrants were going, the spying was going on, the person okayed it, Benghazi happened, the person at the top, you can't blame Hillary Clinton altogether, though she was overjoyed about, when Libya went down. The person at the top was Obama, was a guy that got the Peace Prize before he even was president for just becoming president. And Al Gore got that prize too for a movie that has proven out every single thing in that movie is proven to be false. So, the Peace Prize is really a joke now. I don't know about you, but recently it came out that there was a picture of Obama taken with Louis Farrakhan. I seem to remember, you know, all the stuff that's coming out now, it's coming out in the past few months. I knew all about this because of WikiLeaks. I was following everything, and I followed very closely Obama's election. Oh yeah, in that first election, we just found that Hillary, some guy, a senior person in her campaign, you know, sexually harassed or assaulted a woman. She kept him, you know, and she wasn't running. No, wait a second. Okay, got to give her this one. See, in 2008, she was running on competency. This time, she was running as a woman, you know, as a woman. But I don't think she said anything about sticking up for women's rights, but just that it would be woman to have woman. It'd be great to have, you know, a woman sitting in the Oval Office, on the seat of the Oval Office. That would be like totally, doesn't mean anything anymore with transgenderism. But anyway, she was running in 2008 as a competent. So she let that go on and let that guy get away with sexual assault of another staffer, and she kept him on. But she was running as a competent person. So since she was running as a competent person, we can't really blame her. Only if she did it in this election when she was running as a woman and the whole woman thing. And I really don't know what she was, other than becoming president and breaking a glass ceiling, I have no idea what she was doing for women. Like Barack Obama, a first biracial president. Be great when we get somebody that's actually the descendant of slaves. Wouldn't that be amazing? Mother and father, both sides, descendant of slaves. And you know, Obama's father was from Kenya. So, I mean, so we had that. So, and I'm not quite sure exactly what Obama did for the people who are Black or African American in this country. I really don't know, but I remember a long time ago, some woman on TV saying he gave me a phone. He gave me a phone, and some other woman saying he's going to pay for everything. I'm not going to have to pay for my car. You know, he gave me a phone. I can't think of anything. I'm sorry. But we do know that he took a picture with Louis Farrakhan, who is known to be an anti-Semite Muslim. And he's got his Quran, so he knows what the Quran actually says about gay people. And then he's also, there was Farrakhan. Of course, Farrakhan was in Chicago, so of course he knew Farrakhan, of course. And the Reverend Wright, who, who hated white people and GD America. He used to be Muslim, and somehow he converted to Christianity, but Obama said that he didn't know about all those sermons because it was Michelle that went every week. So he didn't know about his anti-Semitism and hating white people and hating America and all those horrible things because he really didn't attend church. And when he was a community organizer, and he also was a junior senator and community organizer in the city in this country that has the highest homicide rate. Wait, Baltimore actually went over the top, because of all those riots, as Black Lives Matter, Freddie Gray and the riots. See, police are afraid to leave their cars because they don't want to get indicted. So the crime rate has gone up because police involvement has had to go down because they're scared. So Chicago used to be, and there's the highest number of shootings, and it's got the strongest, gun control thing, except all the guns that are shooting off are all illegal. And what Obama did do something, him and Eric Holder, he actually, the amount of prosecutions for gun crimes went down. the reason why is because some of them would file off the serial number, and bump stocks, he made those legal too. But he said he didn't want to prosecute any more of his people, and so they kind of dropped the charges for guns, which is interesting, because he's so anti-gun, wants to take guns away from people, and the whole, like always, I said before, the Fast and Furious, sending thousands of guns to Mexico to drug runners. And so I'm trying to figure out what he did. So he was a community organizer, and I remember they were interviewing some ladies that he worked with, and they asked them, because all the reporters wanted to know what a great guy Obama was, and his, she was running on competency, that she had the experience, she was competent and experienced. And so they wanted to find out what his credentials, how, because he was really smart. He graduated from Harvard, for God's sakes, editor of the Harvard Law Review. And as far as we know, he never wrote anything as editor. He didn't. Usually editors write something when they're editor of the Harvard Law Review. So they asked these women, two lovely elderly women, and they said, oh, he was so good. Yeah, he did a good job. Yeah, he was nice to work with, something like that. And then when he was junior senator, he voted present 99% of the time, because, you see, he wants to be president. When you're president, you are the decider. Remember, George Bush said, I'm the decider. He makes the decisions. Well, you were supposed to make, somebody in authority has to make a decision, sometimes right or wrong. You have to make a decision on the spot. And he voted present 99% of the time. And he was friends with Bill Ayers, who was a domestic terrorist, and he said 30 million Americans have to die, so the communist revolution can take hold. But when Obama was asked about that, he said, he's a professor. I was friends with him. He was a professor. He was a dignified member of the Chicago Society, and so I knew, because Obama's campaign started in Bill Ayers' living room. That's when they. So we have that, and then he was against illegal immigration because it took jobs away from Black people. He's against that. He was for sealing the border. Of course, Clinton was for sealing the border as well, but and he was against gay marriage. So it's a funny thing. It's a funny thing. You know how they call Trump a racist? Here's a bit of information that all these pundits, when they talk about Hillary, they'll mention the first part of a statement that she said. She said she called Black men, African American men, super predators. And remember, they were talking about how awful that was. Basically that's the racist thing. And also, 3 strikes, you're out, and you're out. Bill Clinton did that. You commit 3 crimes, you're in jail for life. And they supported private prisons. So basically, more Black people went to jail under Clinton than anybody. But they keep playing this, or they keep talking about this, and it's really funny, because I think the reason why these pundits don't say the second half of her statement is because I think even Alex Jones, if this memo comes out, and then it implicates all these Democrats, and they all Hillary for prison, he's going to be dancing on his desk. Oh my God. But even Alex Jones, nobody picked up on this. It's really funny. And the great Six Hex and Hammer 666, Even he didn't pick up on this. Okay. And he's so smart. Ugh. Anyway, she said, she called them their super predators. And then she says, and they need to be brought to heel. And I think the reason why most people don't say the second half, because they want to say the first half because it makes her sound really bad. So the second half, she wants them to heal. No. Heal means a predator, a monster, or whatever. They're a predator. You bring a predator to heal, not H-E-A-L, as in, touch the hem of his garments and I know I'll be whole, as in Jesus healing. Heal as in master and servant, let's say. Not say any more than that. Heal, H-E-E-L, which was even worse, which other than, the fact that they let her, she kissed, the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, the Conscience of the Senate, what's his name, Robert Byrd, and he was her mentor, and Obama went to his funeral, and Bill Clinton eulogized him, and a statue of the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan went up in the Capitol Rotunda when Obama was president. I'm trying to figure out what he did when somebody was a racist. And William Fulbright, a segregationalist, was Bill Clinton's mentor, and Orville Faubus, was also a segregationalist, KKK member, was also Al Gore's good friend of his father. So he was in on that. I'm trying to figure out what Obama did to help the black people other than going to funerals of KKK members and eulogizing them and putting a statue up in the rotunda of them. And that's so interesting that nobody got that second half of her statement. Second half of her statement actually made super predator. That was bad. It's the second half of the statement that's really worse. And nobody got it. It's like, I heard it and I'm going, boy, I know exactly what she's saying. It's really funny. It's like, I'm smarter than Alex Jones. And the other people too. All the other people. Even Tucker Carlson, I love him. Yeah. So anyway, what do you think? Do you think he's going to have a music play? Do you think he's going to come out with the lights? And do you think he's going to come down, or he's going to come down the hallway holding the memo? It's like, wouldn't this be great? Because we already know the crimes that she's committed. Everything came out in WikiLeaks. If you've been following this during the election, you've been awake. You haven't been asleep like our progressive family members of this country. They're our family, even though they're in the dark about some things. What do you think? It's like, wouldn't that be amazing? It would be amazing that if we could shock half the electorate of this country into awareness, like get off the dope, get off, like Rome. We're becoming like ancient Rome. I'll tell you a little bit of history. Now, ancient Rome was brought down by bread and circuses, and also a tremendous amount of immigration. You see, the politicians back then gave free wine and free bread to the populace and had games in the Colosseum. They were constantly watching entertainment. It's like we do. The country is just legalizing marijuana. Oh, it's good for you. It's actually good for you. Legalizing all these drugs, and drugs are okay, and free entertainment. We're just being dumbed down. And what happened was, if you were a Roman citizen, you were highly taxed if you had a child. You couldn't afford to have a child. But the people who were coming in, they created a welfare state because, guess what happened? The politicians in ancient Rome wanted the votes, just like what's happening in Sweden. I've talked to people who are in Sweden, said the same thing. They're bringing all these immigrants in for votes. And that's what's basically it's happening in this country. It's happening everywhere. So they're dumbing down the populace with bread and circuses. You know, free wine, free bread. We have free, the drugs are becoming illegal, and we're just all dummied up. They watch the Kardashians and all that stuff. I don't even watch television, for God's sakes. I couldn't even hold a conversation. I don't even know what music is being played. I have no idea what modern music is like. I listen to the old stuff. Panem e circenses means bread and circuses. Identifies the only remaining cares of a Roman populace, which no longer cares for its historical birthright and political involvement. Should I say that again? Panem e circenses, bread and circuses. They gave them free bread and free entertainment and free wine, drug them up. And so we don't know, we're not aware of what's really happening. The most dangerous thing that Hillary Clinton said, they brought out that email came out that she said she wanted open borders, and Trump brought it up in the debate. And this is another thing that nobody really pounced on, and they should have pounced on. And Trump brought that up in the debate. And he said, but in that same memo, and she denied, oh, I meant trade when I said open borders. And in that same memo, it said she's striving for an uninformed and compliant citizenry. An uninformed and compliant citizenry. And who votes for her? The uninformed. Compliant? We're becoming compliant because we're afraid to say anything. We're afraid to call people mother or father. They've taken words away from our lips. We don't know what to say because we're living in a bully society. It's a bully world. Because if somebody has the right to decide one moment what gender they are from the next, and then if we make a mistake like that child in California, made the little girl, I guess the little boy decided he had changed his name. He was a little girl, and she didn't know this, and she went up to him and she called him by she dead named him, so to speak, by his old name. And she was taken into the principal's office and heavily reprimanded. And if it happened again, they were going to start an investigation. Can you imagine for the rest of her life what this little girl is going to go through emotionally? And we know we care about the transgenders because they do have a 40% suicide rate, but giving them hormones when they're young like that they'll never develop it. They'll never go through puberty. And they also can't have a sex change. It screws them up completely. And we know, women know, I'll say it, hormones really screw us up. I mean, certain time in the month, hormones really screw us up, actually all month long. But you don't want to be taking extra hormones. The whole idea of taking hormones, and when women are on birth control pills, I'm sorry to say, but that screws you up because those are hormones, and you get all emotional and stuff. It's true. Let's just be honest about this. You don't want to be giving this to children, and then it's not the little girl who was the bully. It is the school that's the bully. We're actually educating and fostering a whole generation, new generations of bullies. I thought I left that when I left school. I've had enough bullying. I know what it's like. And this little girl will never be the same. So we're afraid to speak. We are being dumbed down. So the compliance. You're compliant when I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to call you. I don't want to offend you. I don't want to get thrown in jail. And this is happening in Canada, and it's starting to happen in this country. And Stephen Crowder is exposing this wonderfully. I think he's great. I think he's one of the best as far as vloggers go. I think he's the tops. I really do. And there's numerous ones that are very good too, but I'll get off the beaten track if I mention all of them at this moment. But we will become compliant because we're going to become mute, because we're going to become afraid. And they're dumbing us down with drugs. And because we're so afraid and we've been beaten down these past 8 years, we thought we had healed the country of racism, and everyone was so proud to go and vote for Barack Obama so they can say, see, I'm not a racist. People were afraid back then too. Look, I'm not I voted for Barack Obama. Please don't call me a racist. People were so afraid of that word. And then it got worse. And so as long as the truth is still out there and we can somehow access it on the web, and we have our elders and people who are wise that remember the past, then we can be informed. But soon, you see, it says right here, a populace which no longer cares for its historical birthright of political involvement. We're destroying our birthright. We're destroying the forefathers of this country who gave us the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and free speech and the right to protest. We're destroying this. We're going to take that down. And then we'll be so dumbed down with these drugs that we won't even remember. America, notice America, the capital, it's the architecture is reminiscent of ancient Rome, the glory of Rome. But now we have become Rome in its decline. We are Rome because we have become an uninformed and compliant citizenry, as Hillary Clinton said in that email. That was the most dangerous thing. And I haven't heard, even Tucker Carlson, the wonderful Tucker Carlson, or Ben Shapiro, or maybe he did, maybe I didn't hear him. He is the smartest man in the world with a 240 IQ, I think. Maybe he did say that, but this, I've never heard it mentioned. And you would think people would repeat that. And that's the most dangerous thing that she's ever said. And that's what we're becoming. So if you pray that memo shows something, and that people wake up and come out of their stupor and see the truth, and see both sides of an issue, and see both sides of the political spectrum, and that we start to debate each other. We've lost the art of debating. When you debate, in colleges they used to teach you critical thought, and so you could take the other side of the argument, even though that wasn't your argument. You learned to take the other side of the argument and present a winning argument. We've lost that. We're losing ourselves. We are losing our country. And I pray that this memo does reveal the truth and starts waking people up before we're dumbed down and we lose everything. And the Rome was broken up into little kingdoms, little cities. See, poor people were dependent on the rich, and essentially the poor became slaves to the rich. And generation after generation, they owed money. They couldn't survive. And so they're basically living like slaves. And each generation, the debt accumulated. So if your father or your father and father's father owed something, it was brought forward, and you owed, and so Italy itself became was a non-state, was a non-country after it fell, and it was only recently under Mussolini was it became a country, which wasn't really that long ago. So a lot of Italians left and came to this country, where there was no welfare and there was no handouts, but they knew how to make pasta and bread. Then you add flour, they made magic, and grapes, they made wine. And things are so different than when my ancestors came over to this country. We're losing this country. And this might be, let's hope Trump gets elected again, because the future, the ignorance looks bleak. He may be our last American president. What do you call it? Sense. When things made sense. Things stopped making sense. Overnight, Obama told the schools that if a man who's not even dressed like a woman decides he was a woman, he can go into the bathroom, a little girl's bathroom, and the schools would lose their funding if they don't allow this. That was crazy. An uproar. The women should have pounced on the White House, but they didn't, because he's half black. Nobody wanted to be called a racist. This insanity happened. And the most precious thing, our children, are being destroyed. A little girl isn't safe going to the bathroom anymore. And to withhold funding, that's bullying. That's a dictator. That was insanity. And he got away with it because everyone's afraid of being called a racist. That's when I realized the insanity, the uninformed compliance, the bread and circuses had taken hold. This must be reversed, because we must protect our children. And if a child makes a mistake and calls someone by a name, the only name she knew that child was, that little boy, which is now a little girl, the only name she knew. If we don't allow children to make mistakes, or what about the elderly when they get senile? Are we going to punish them too? If we don't allow each other to make mistakes and say, I'm so, oh, is that okay? Thank you for telling me. I'm sorry, I forgot. I only remember the names of animals, but I forget people's names. The owners' names I forget, but I remember the names. Oh, there's your doggy, or there's your kitty, or their children. That's what I remember. I forget so many things, and we must allow each other to make mistakes. If we don't allow each other to make mistakes, and we thought that the liberals, the hippies, it was about tolerance and forgiveness and human rights, and to stop suicides and bullying and abuse. That used to be the cry we thought of the feminists, to stop abuse and bullying. But instead we created it. I thought it was over when I left school. But I see what's going to happen to these little girls, or these children who make mistakes, like calling somebody by the wrong name. We are destroying ourselves, and it must be reversed, because we're just going to walk around like zombies, uninformed and compliant. And remember, when there are open borders, see, it's good that we have countries, because there's a lot of countries where women and homosexuals are killed and oppressed. And there's this country that everybody runs to, because these terrible white men gave us the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, of free speech. If printers were determined to print, not to print anything that would offend someone, then nothing would be printed. Benjamin Franklin. This is the place where everybody runs to. And there needs to be borders, because we need to run out of these countries. If there's a borderless world, and there's one unelected ruler, like the EU, unelected ruler, and you have a dictator, and they make up crazy rules, like the bathroom. Little girls have to go to the bathroom with grown men who just decided that moment that they were women. It's crazy rules. You see, if there are no borders, then there's no America to run to. There'll be nowhere left to run. And that's the most dangerous thing in that memo by Hillary Clinton. One little kiss from Felina.